The war had lasted for years. Across the stars, dozens of worlds had fallen. The Zelnar Empire, a race of tall, grey-skinned aliens with eyes like cold glass, had crushed every enemy they faced. They moved like a storm, destroying fleets, burning colonies, and leaving silence behind. Every species that resisted them vanished. But then they met the humans. At first, the Zelnar thought humans were nothing special, small, fragile, emotional creatures from a blue planet near the edge of the galaxy. They didn't have the most powerful ships. They didn't have energy weapons as strong as the Zelnar, and their fleets were smaller. The Zelnar expected an easy victory. What they got instead was confusion. The first battle was strange. Human ships attacked and then retreated, attacked again from another direction, and vanished before the Zelnar could respond. Their captains called it cowardice, but soon they realized it was something else. Every move the humans made had purpose. Every loss they took forced the Zelnar into a trap they couldn't see. In orbit above Mars, an alien commander named Korith watched human ships disappear into the red clouds. His scanners showed nothing. The humans were gone like ghosts. He ordered his fleet to pursue, but the humans appeared behind them, firing missiles into their engines. The Zelnar flagship shook as explosions tore through its side. Korith's eyes widened. He had never seen such tactics before. The humans didn't fight for honor or glory. They fought to win. Back on Earth, Commander Aaron Blake stood in the war room of the Global Defense Network. Holographic maps of the solar system floated in the air, showing enemy positions. Around him stood generals, scientists, and AI advisors. Everyone looked tired, but Blake's voice was calm. "They think we're weak," he said. Let them keep thinking that. His plan was dangerous. It went against everything the military had taught. But it was the only way. The humans could not fight the Zelnar with power, so they would fight with deception. They would make the enemy chase ghosts, attack shadows, and waste their strength. Every trap would lead to another. Every false signal would hide the real strike. The Zelnar didn't understand human thinking. Their minds were logical, cold, and based on patterns. They expected wars to be predictable, but humans were chaotic. They made mistakes, adapted, and used their emotions as fuel. When fear came, they turned it into courage. When hope was gone, they created new hope. That was something no alien empire could calculate. Weeks passed. Human losses were heavy, but every battle gave them new data. They learned faster than the Zelnar expected. The aliens began losing small skirmishes, then large ones. Supply lines vanished. Ships went missing in the dark between stars. And then human broadcasts began to appear on Zelnar channels. Taunts, fake coordinates, voices laughing in alien frequencies. "They're mocking us," one Zelnar admiral hissed. "How can these primitives find us so easily?" Because they weren't primitives anymore. Every human soldier had access to real-time battlefield AI. Every civilian was part of the war effort, spreading false data and coded messages. It wasn't just a fight between armies. It was the entire human race against the invaders. And for the first time, the Zelnar began to feel something they had never felt before: doubt. One night, in the command center on Earth's moon base, Commander Blake received a message from the front. The Zelnar were gathering near Jupiter, planning a massive strike. Their fleet was too large to fight directly. Everyone in the room looked at Blake, waiting for his decision. He stood silent for a moment, staring at the holographic projection of the alien ships. Then he smiled. "They've gathered in one place," he said quietly. "Good, that means they'll fall together." The officers exchanged nervous glances. They didn't know what he meant. Blake walked to the center of the room, his boots echoing on the metal floor. "We're going to let them win this battle," he said. "And then we'll end the war." The plan he was about to set in motion would be remembered for centuries, a plan that no machine could predict. A strategy born not from power, but from the very thing that made humans different: their ability to risk everything for a chance to survive. As the human fleet prepared to move, the stars outside seemed to flicker. The Zelnar thought they were closing in for the final blow. They didn't know they were walking straight into humanity's greatest trap, and this was only the beginning. The Zelnar fleet moved toward Jupiter like a wave of fire. Thousands of alien warships glowed red against the gas giant's storms. Their energy cores burned brighter than the sun. The command ships sent signals across space, ordering every vessel to advance. They believed the human defense line was broken, They believed victory was close. From the human side, silence. Not a single transmission came from Earth or Mars. The Zelnar sensors showed empty space. No fleets, no resistance. It looked as if humanity had finally given up. The alien commanders laughed through their comms, their sharp voices echoing across the void. But they didn't know what was waiting for them beyond Jupiter's shadow. Commander Aaron Blake stood on the bridge of the human flagship Resolute. The ship floated near the asteroid belt, its lights dim to avoid detection. Around him, hundreds of smaller ships waited in silence. Every pilot watched their screens, hearts racing. "The order had not yet come, sir," said Lieutenant Hannah Lee, her voice tense. "Zelnar fleet is crossing the orbit of Callisto. Estimated contact in 7 minutes." Blake nodded slowly. "Keep them blind. Let them come closer." He looked at the holographic map again. His plan depended on timing, deception, and a little luck. The humans didn't have the numbers, but they had something else. The one advantage no machine or alien had ever used like them: unpredictability. The Zelnar scanners finally picked up energy signatures behind Jupiter. Thousands of faint signals moving fast. They thought it was the remaining human fleet, hiding behind the planet. The alien admirals gave the order to fire all weapons. Beams of energy shot across space, burning through Jupiter's upper atmosphere. Explosions lit the storms below. The aliens roared in triumph, but there was nothing there. The fleet they had attacked were decoys, thousands of drones, satellites, and metal debris projecting false energy signals. As the Zelnar wasted their ammunition, the real human fleet moved silently from behind the asteroids. "Now," Blake said. The Resolute powered up its engines. Every ship in the human fleet followed. In seconds, hundreds of vessels broke their silence, charging straight toward the enemy from behind. The dark sky filled with light as missiles streaked forward, cutting through the black. On the alien sensors, it was chaos. Ships turned to face the new threat, but their systems were jammed. Human electronic warfare flooded the channels with fake commands. Alien ships started colliding as false navigation data made them change course. Aboard the Zelnar flagship, Admiral Korith slammed his fist on the control table. "Find them! Destroy them!" he shouted. But every time he fired at a human ship, it disappeared behind debris or split into 2 false signals. The humans were everywhere, Quasis, and nowhere. Blake watched the holographic map as red enemy icons flickered, faded, and vanished. His plan was working. But victory came at a cost. The humans were fighting close to Jupiter's radiation belt. The longer they stayed, the more their systems burned. Sparks flew from the Resolute's panels as the ship shook from enemy fire. "Sir, we can't hold this position much longer," Lee warned. Blake's jaw tightened. "Then we don't hold it. We finish it." He activated a hidden command. Across the human fleet, hundreds of cargo ships that had seemed useless suddenly changed formation. Their containers opened, revealing something new: massive reactors modified into gravitational bombs. The aliens didn't even realize what they were until it was too late. Korith stared at his screen in confusion. "What are they doing?" "Those aren't weapons." But then the gravitational field began to twist. Space itself seemed to bend. The bombs created miniature singularities that pulled asteroids from the belt toward the Zelnar fleet. Massive rocks the size of cities moved like guided missiles. The aliens fired at them, but there were too many. The sky turned into a storm of stone and fire. Blake watched silently as the alien fleet tried to escape. Many didn't make it. The asteroids tore through their ships, breaking their perfect formations. Explosions lit up the gas giants' rings, painting them red with fire. Still, Blake didn't celebrate. He knew this wasn't the end. Only a fraction of the Zelnar fleet was destroyed. The rest retreated, their ships limping away into deep space. As silence returned, Blake turned to his crew. "We bought time," he said. "Now we use it." Lieutenant Lee looked at him with worry. "Sir, what if they come back with more?" Blake looked out the window at the burning debris field. "Then we'll be ready. They've seen our strength, but not our strategy." Far away on the surviving Zelnar command ship, Admiral Korith stood staring at the human transmissions now spreading across alien space. Every channel carried the same simple message in a calm human voice: "This is not over. Humanity doesn't surrender." The words echoed across the stars. The Zelnar, for the first time in their long history of conquest, began to fear what humans would do next. And somewhere deep in the dark, Commander Blake was already planning the next move. The wreckage of the Zelnar fleet drifted through space like ghosts. Pieces of alien ships spun slowly, burning with orange fire. The humans had survived the Battle of Jupiter, barely. Every victory had cost them lives, fuel, and hope. Yet across Earth, Mars, and the colonies, people celebrated. For the first time, humanity had done what no other species had ever done. They had beaten the Zelnar in open battle, but Commander Aaron Blake didn't celebrate. He stood in silence, staring at the stars from the observation deck of the Resolute. Around him, the bridge crew worked quietly, repairing systems and sending rescue drones into the debris field. Blake's face was calm, but his eyes were heavy. He knew the war was far from over. Reports showed that the Zelnar had regrouped beyond Saturn. Their main fleet was still massive, and new reinforcements were already on the way from deep space. Humanity had wounded them, but not broken them. And when an empire like that is wounded, it strikes back with rage. In the war room, holographic maps filled the air. Officers argued over strategies. Some wanted to attack before the aliens could recover. Others said they should retreat and defend Earth. Blake listened to all of them in silence. Then he said one word, neither. Everyone turned to him. "We don't fight their way anymore," Blake said. "They expect us to hit them where they are strong. So we'll go where they're weak." He pointed at a sector on the map, a dark region far from Earth's colonies. "These are their supply routes. Automated, unguarded, and critical. Without fuel, without communication relays, their fleets are blind. We won't fight their ships. We'll make sure those ships can't move." The room fell silent. It was a risky plan. No one had ever tried striking so deep into enemy territory. But Blake's calm confidence spread through the crew. Humanity had survived this long because they dared to do what others wouldn't. A week later, a small fleet of stealth ships left the solar system. Their mission was simple: disappear into Zelnar space and destroy their lifelines. The fleet was led by Captain Reina Torres, a fearless pilot who had once flown cargo ships through asteroid storms for fun. Now she was leading the most dangerous mission of the war. Her ships moved through the dark, silent and invisible. The Zelnar sensors could not detect them. One by one, human saboteurs destroyed alien fuel stations and relay satellites. Explosions lit the empty sectors, but no trace of the attackers remained. As the Zelnar struggled to understand what was happening, panic began to spread among their commanders. Their fleets could no longer communicate properly. Ships arrived at the wrong coordinates or ran out of power mid-flight. They had the biggest empire in the galaxy, but it was starting to fall apart from the inside. Back on Earth, the people were united like never before. Scientists worked around the clock to upgrade ships. Civilians volunteered to join communication networks, sending coded signals across deep space. Even rival nations forgot their borders. The war had made humanity one, and something unexpected began to happen. Other alien races, once enemies or fearful observers, began to notice. The Dren, a reptilian species crushed by the Zelnar years ago, sent secret messages to Earth. The Virine, insectoid traders, offered supplies and data. Even the gentle Carol, who had lost half their population in the first Zelnar invasion, reached out. They all had one question: "Humans, how are you still fighting them?" Blake answered through a transmission that spread across space. "Because we don't fight alone. Every human, every ship, every idea is part of this war. You don't need to be strong. You just need to stand." Those words changed everything. Across the stars, whispers spread. The humans were not just surviving. They were fighting back and winning through strategy, courage, and unity. The idea was contagious. Small uprisings began in Zelnar-controlled worlds. Supply lines burned. Slave colonies rebelled. The Zelnar Council grew furious. Admiral Korith was summoned before his leaders. The room was dark, filled with the glow of alien symbols. "You promised victory," the High Leader hissed. "Yet these humans make fools of us," Korith bowed his head. "They fight in ways we do not understand. They do not fear death. They do not obey logic." The High Leader's cold eyes narrowed. "Then we will remove logic from this war. If they fight like animals, we will treat them as such." Korith looked up, uncertain what that meant. He would soon find out, because deep in Zelnar space, something monstrous was being built. A weapon beyond imagination, meant to erase Earth in one single strike. And while humanity celebrated small victories, None of them knew that the greatest threat was already moving toward their home. In the cold darkness beyond the edge of known space, something massive was taking shape. The Xelnar called it the Silence Bringer. It was not just a weapon. It was a world-sized machine designed to end all resistance in one strike. Its core could bend gravity, twist light, and erase entire planets. The Xelnar engineers worked in silence, guarded by fleets that humans had never seen. Even their own soldiers were afraid to speak of it. Admiral Korith stood on a platform overlooking the giant sphere. Its surface shimmered with strange energy. "When it fires," said the High Leader beside him, "Earth will no longer exist. Let them see how their courage burns." Korith nodded but said nothing. Deep inside, something bothered him. He had fought the humans and watched them survive the impossible. He had seen them lose everything and still come back stronger. He feared that this weapon might not break them. It might only make them more dangerous. Back in the solar system, life had started to look different. For the first time in years, the stars around Earth were quiet. The humans had taken back Mars' orbit, rebuilt their defenses, and expanded their communication grid. But Commander Aaron Blake knew it was only calm before the storm. He could feel it. He stood in the command center, staring at the holographic map of known space. "We haven't seen a single Xelnar movement in weeks," said Lieutenant Hannah Lee. "It's too quiet." Blake nodded slowly. "They're planning something. The Xelnar don't hide, not unless they're building something they don't want us to see." A few hours later, a message arrived from deep space. It came from Captain Raina Torres, who was still leading her stealth fleet beyond the borders. Her voice came through with static, broken and urgent. "This is Torres. We found something. Coordinates attached. Say it's huge, and it's not a ship. We're sending scans now." "Wait, they found us." The message cut off. The signal ended with a burst of noise. The room went silent. Blake turned to the technicians. "Recover the coordinates. Now." Within minutes, the data appeared. The scans showed something enormous, larger than any structure ever recorded. The energy readings were unstable, almost impossible to read. But one thing was clear. The weapon was real. Blake stared at the display. "They're not coming for victory," he said quietly. "They're coming to erase us." A council of Earth's leaders gathered the next day. Scientists, generals, and AI advisors debated plans. Some wanted to prepare defenses around Earth. Others said it was hopeless. No shield could stop a weapon that large. Blake listened, then spoke. "If we wait for them to attack, it's over. We can't defend Earth from that. We have to destroy it before it fires." The room erupted in arguments. "It's too far," one general said. "No fleet can reach it before it's ready." "Then we don't send a fleet," Blake replied. "We send ghosts." The plan was dangerous, maybe impossible. A small team would use captured alien technology to slip through the Xelnar network and reach the weapon before it was finished. Once inside, they would plant a chain of graviton charges, powerful enough to collapse the weapon's core from within. When the team was chosen, Blake insisted on leading it himself. His officers tried to stop him, but he refused. "If we fail, I want to be there," he said simply. A week later, a human stealth carrier, the Eidolon, left the lunar base in silence. Only a few people on Earth even knew the mission existed. The ship carried Blake, Hannah Lee, and a small squad of engineers and soldiers. Their faces were calm, but every one of them knew this might be a one-way trip. Days turned into weeks as the Eidolon moved deeper into enemy space. They passed ruined worlds and dead fleets, evidence of the Xelnar's long history of conquest. At last they saw it, a dark sphere floating among distant stars, surrounded by glowing rings of light. "That's it," Hannah whispered. "The Silence Bringer." It was bigger than anything she could imagine. The ship's scanners struggled to measure its size. Energy waves rippled across its surface like a heartbeat. Blake felt a chill. "We get one chance," he said. "If it wakes before we reach the core, Earth is gone." They began their approach, cloaked in silence. Every light was off, every system running at minimum. One wrong signal could expose them. As they moved closer, the ship's sensors picked up movement. A patrol of Xelnar drones scanning the perimeter. The Eidolon froze in place, engines off, drifting like a rock. The crew held their breath. The drones passed by, their lights sweeping across the dark. For a moment it seemed they were safe. Then one of the lights stopped. It turned slowly toward them, so... Hannah whispered. "I think they saw us," the alarms lit up. The Eidolon broke cloak as alien weapons fired. The blackness of space erupted in light. Blake shouted, "Evasive maneuvers! Get us to the surface, now!" The small ship dove straight toward the massive weapon, chased by fire. Behind them, the Zelnar realized something unthinkable was happening. Humans were coming straight for their ultimate weapon. The Eidolon burned through the darkness like a falling star. Energy blasts streaked past its hull as the crew fought to stay alive. The giant Zelnar weapon, the Silence Bringer, grew larger every second, its black surface stretching across their view like an endless wall. Shields failing. Hana shouted as sparks burst across her console. "Hold it together," Blake ordered. "Get us close enough to breach." The ship shook violently. The hull alarm screamed, metal groaning as alien fire tore through its armor. But Blake didn't stop. He pushed the thrusters to maximum, forcing the ship toward the weapon's lower hemisphere. At the last moment, the Eidolon dove into a narrow maintenance trench running along the sphere's surface. Alien drones chased them, firing non-stop. Hana launched decoy flares that scattered into dozens of false readings. For a few seconds, the enemy lost track of them. "Seal the rear hatch," Blake said. "We're going in." The Eidolon latched onto the surface with magnetic clamps. The crew, wearing armored suits, gathered at the airlock. Their mission was simple in theory, impossible in practice. Reach the weapon's core, plant the graviton charges, and escape before detonation. Blake looked at his team. "No mistakes. We do this for every world they destroyed. For Earth, for everyone who can't fight back." The door opened. The crew stepped into darkness. The interior of the Silence Bringer was like a living maze, tunnels of black metal that seemed to breathe. Strange blue lights pulsed along the walls, like veins carrying energy. Every sound echoed. "Feels like we're walking inside a creature," Hana whispered. They moved quickly, guided by stolen Zelnar schematics. The corridors twisted in impossible directions, gravity shifting as they climbed deeper. In the distance, they heard low mechanical sounds like a giant heartbeat. Hours passed. The crew planted the first few charges along the power conduits. Each one glowed faintly as it synced with the weapon's energy flow. But as they reached the final sector, movement appeared ahead. A group of Zelnar drones. Sleek, metallic, and silent, they hovered in the air, scanning the corridor. Blake raised his hand. "Don't fire unless you have to." The team crouched behind cover, hearts pounding. But one of the drones suddenly turned. Its red eye flashed. It had seen them now. Blake shouted. The corridor exploded in light. Plasma bolts ripped through the air as humans and machines clashed. Hana fired her rifle, hitting a drone square in the core. It fell, burning. Another drone slammed into the wall, spinning uncontrollably before detonating. 2 soldiers went down. Blake dragged one to cover, shouting for medics, but the wounds were too deep. There was no time. The remaining team pushed forward, fighting through smoke and fire until the last drone fell silent. Breathing hard, Hana leaned against the wall. "We can't take many more of those." "We won't have to," Blake said. "The core is close." They entered a massive chamber unlike anything they had seen. It was a hollow sphere filled with swirling light, pure energy rotating around a glowing crystal heart. Lightning arcs danced across the chamber walls, crackling with power. The core pulsed slowly like the heart of a god. "This is it," Blake said. "Set the final charge." The engineers moved fast, attaching the graviton device to the main conduit. It began to hum, connecting to the weapons systems. Lights across the chamber flickered. The countdown started, 15 minutes until overload, but then the chamber shook. A deep rumbling voice filled the air. "Humans!" A holographic figure appeared above them, Admiral Korith. His image projected from the control systems, towering over the humans like a ghost. "You think you can destroy the will of the Zelnar?" he said, his tone calm but filled with anger. "Your kind fights like animals. You do not understand the power you face." Blake stared at him, unflinching. "Maybe not. But we understand something you don't. We never stop." Korith's eyes glowed cold blue. "Then die with your planet." The floor split apart. Energy beams erupted as hidden defense drones descended from the ceiling. The chamber turned into chaos. "Hana! Get that detonator ready!" Blake shouted. The humans scattered, firing and dodging blasts. One of the drones hit the wall near the graviton charge, almost knocking it loose. Hana ran through the smoke, covering her eyes from the light. She reached the control panel and slammed her hand on the detonator override. 10 minutes to overload, the AI voice announced. Blake fired again, his rifle overheating. We're out of time. Fall back to the ship. The survivors ran through the collapsing tunnels, chased by explosions. Alarms echoed across the entire structure. The Eidolon's pilot, still inside the ship, opened comms. Commander, the whole thing's waking up. You have less than 5 minutes before it fires. Understood. Blake yelled as they ran. Hannah stumbled. Blake turned back, grabbed her arm and pulled her up. The tunnel behind them glowed bright red as energy surged through the walls. They dove through the final hatch, just as the ship's airlock sealed shut. Go, Blake shouted. The Eidolon released its clamps and fired its engines. The colossal weapon began to glow, its surface lighting up like a star. Inside the ship, alarms blared. Core detonation in 30 seconds. Outside, the massive sphere trembled as cracks of light spread across it. And far away in Zelnar command space, Admiral Korith watched in disbelief. The humans had done it. They were destroying the unstoppable weapon. But as the explosion began, Blake's voice came through the comms, calm and steady. This is for everyone you tried to silence. And then, light filled the stars. The explosion tore through space like the birth of a new star. For a moment, everything went silent. Then the light swallowed the dark. The massive Zelnar weapon, the Silence Bringer, collapsed in on itself, its own power turning against it. The shockwave spread for thousands of kilometers, shattering fleets, silencing every signal. From far away, human observatories on the Moon and Mars saw it happen. A bright flash on their screens. And then, nothing. The readings vanished. Inside the Eidolon, alarms screamed as the blast wave caught them. The ship spun violently, shields cracking under the pressure. Hannah gripped the console, shouting, "We're not going to make it!" Blake held the controls steady, fighting the ship's violent turns. "We already made it," he said, his voice calm. "Just hold on." The light engulfed them. When Hannah opened her eyes again, everything was quiet. The ship floated in a field of burning debris. The once mighty Zelnar weapon was gone, reduced to fragments of glowing metal drifting through space. "Status," she whispered. The ship's AI responded weakly, its voice distorted. "Hull integrity, like critical. Engines offline. Life support stable." Hannah turned to Blake, who was slumped against the console. His suit was torn, blood floating in tiny red drops around him. "Commander," she called, shaking him. "Stay with me." Blake opened his eyes slowly. He smiled, weak but steady. "Did we get it?" Hannah nodded, tears forming. "It's gone." "You did it." He looked out the cracked window at the burning remains of the alien weapon. "Not me," he whispered. "All of us." Outside, human distress beacons began to light up. Other ships from the stealth fleet, survivors, were emerging from the shadows. They had watched the explosion from afar, waiting, hoping someone made it out. "Rescue ships are on the way," Hannah said. "We're going home." Blake smiled faintly. "Home." It's been a long time since that word meant something. As she turned to send a distress signal, the AI spoke again. "Incoming transmission." "From Zelnar command frequency." Hannah froze. "What?" A deep, broken voice came through. Admiral Korith. His tone was quiet, stripped of arrogance. "Human vessel. This is Korith of the Zelnar. The High Leader is dead. Our fleets are gone. You have done what no empire has done before." Blake took a weak breath. "Then end it. No more killing." There was silence for a long moment. Then Korith replied, "You have my word. The war is over." The channel went dead. For the first time in years, the stars were peaceful. The humans had done the impossible, not through strength but through courage, sacrifice, and the will to survive. The galaxy would never see them as weak again. Weeks later, the Eidolon was found drifting near the asteroid belt. Rescue teams brought the survivors back to Earth. News spread across every colony, every outpost, every ship. The war was finished. Humanity had won. People poured into the streets, crying, shouting, hugging strangers. From the oceans to the cities on Mars, lights filled the night sky. The human spirit, battered but unbroken, had saved not only themselves but countless other species across the stars. At a ceremony weeks later, Hannah stood before a crowd at the Global Defense Hall. Behind her was a large holographic image of Commander Aaron Blake, smiling faintly in his uniform. His body had never been recovered. lost during the explosion. But his story had already become legend. She spoke simply, her voice strong. He once said we couldn't fight with strength. So we fought with our hearts. And that's what made us human. The crowd stood in silence, many wept. Above them, the stars shone brighter than ever before. Across the galaxy, liberated worlds sent messages of thanks. Former enemies, once terrified of the Zelnar, now joined a new alliance, the coalition of free worlds led by humanity. The Zelnar themselves, broken and humbled, retreated to their home systems, no longer conquerors but survivors. And somewhere out there, beyond the known stars, stories began to spread. Stories of the species from a small blue planet who faced extinction, and changed the fate of the galaxy with courage, creativity, and impossible hope. They called it the human strategy. Not a weapon, not a secret plan, but a way of thinking. A belief that even when everything seems lost, there's always another move to play. As the last light of sunset touched Earth's horizon, Hana looked up and whispered softly, "We won, and we became what we were meant to be." The wind carried her words into the night sky, toward the stars that had once been battlefields, now peaceful, shining reminders of humanity's greatest victory. The war was over, but the legend of humanity had just begun.